Thank you so much. And thank you very much for being here today. I'm really delighted to be here. So my name is Peggy van de Plassche. I spent more than 20 years in finance. And I would say my bread and butter is really about value creation. You can call it innovation, you can call it transformation, but at the end of the day, it's always about creating value for businesses. I worked for businesses in healthcare, financial services, manufacturing, technology. So I've seen a lot of industries. But in my work, I've seen the same pattern again and again. Usually businesses will want to increase the value of their company, focus a lot on external growth, mainly via M&A, mergers and acquisitions. But they actually overlook the value that is already sitting within their business. And that can be true for your company, that can be true for the companies of your clients. So the talk is really about unlocking that, not through theory, but really through a practical framework that I call the value creation playbook. So the first question is why? So why do we want to talk about internal value creation? So 70 to 90% of M&A deals don't create value. And actually a big part of that destroy value. And they're expensive, they're complex, they're risky. While on the other end, optimizing what you already own in your own business is way more controllable, capital efficient, and faster to activate. So today, the smartest businesses, they are focusing on growing from within versus acquiring another company. And we're getting in economic time that's a bit challenging. It is time to really look at your business or your client's business to recession proof. And it is something, regardless of your political leanings, that we need to look at. The business reality has changed. What does it mean for your business? Will it survive? Will it thrive? So what is the value creation playbook? So it is not a one-size-fits-all checklist. It's really a strategic framework. It's about identifying, prioritizing, and activating the right performance levers. And we're really talking about established businesses. We're not talking about turnaround situations or startups. We are not talking about pure financial engineering. Maybe you're familiar with that old school idea of putting a lot of debt on a business and juice up the return that way. This is not what we're talking about. We're really talking about increasing the value intrinsically of your business or your clients' companies. And this is built on 3 pillars: strategic clarity, operational excellence, and cultural alignment. But before jumping into these 3 pillars, I want to talk about starting with the right levers. And we're going to use some lingo that has been overused, but let's go back to first principle. You cannot improve what you don't understand. So you need to start by asking, what really drives the value in your business, in your industry? So let's make a parallel with a house. What is really the value of a house? Its location, size, the year it was built, was it renovated, is it close to a school? Anyway, all these criteria. I'm sure you've all looked into that when you bought your own house. Well, it is the same principle for a business. And not all these criteria are created equal. For some industries, one of the most important things is recurring revenue. For others is proprietary IP, or it can be strong customer retention. So to give you a bit of an example, many years ago, I worked for a technology company that was called CGI, very large tech company that you might know already. And at the time, the stock price was not doing very well. The company was really positioned as a service company. And the multiples, the value associated with service company is by definition way lower than a product company. I'm sure if you're following the Magnificent Eight or the Magnificent Seven, maybe you can relate to this idea that products create much more value. So what did we do when we were at CGI? We repositioned the business from service to product. And it was not massive changes. A lot of that was rewriting contracts, changing the way we were delivering the services. And in 6 years, the stock price went from $6 to $20. And this is really where it is important to understand where the value is coming in the business, because you're going to be able to allocate your resource strategically. That's where you're going to have the biggest buck from your bank, or the biggest bang from your buck, actually, or your 80-20. And so if we look at the first lever, which is really the first pillar, which is the strategic clarity, most businesses, and maybe you see that in your own company, they try to do too much. They want to be everything for everyone, which, I mean, start from a good place. But the real way to unlock value is usually to focus. You need to know your core, and maybe that's something you could do with your own personal development. What is really your own brand? And you focus on that. You exit the distraction and you align your efforts and your capital accordingly. But in order to do that, you need to understand the specific of your company. What's the product profitability? What are the customer segments? What is really the cost of all the complexity you might have built in your business? So we spoke a bit earlier about the right levers. These are more industry levers. What does it mean for your industry to have the highest possible valuation? But then when you look at your own business, what are the things you are great at, the things you might not be great at, and where do you need to allocate more capital? Because this clarity is going to give you the direction, and the direction is going to drive your momentum. So again, it really, really starts with a strategic exercise to understand where the value is. I see sometimes organizations getting very excited about value creation, and they launch into many, many programs at the same time. Most of these programs, they don't impact the value of their business at all. It is just a waste of their time. So you want to focus on really what's going to move the needle for your business and for its value, or for your client's business, because that's, I'm sure many of you are advising businesses, and they will need to know all of that to stay in business or to thrive. The second pillar is operational excellence. So I really want to make sure we're on the same page. This is not about cutting costs aggressively. I know very often when we talk about value creation, private equity, the first thing people are thinking is cut cost. It's not about that. It's really about cost optimization. It's about margin expansion. You cannot cut your way to greatness. But think, again, like your home. If you're opening your windows when you're having your AC or your heat, you're wasting a lot of money. Let's say you start closing your windows and now suddenly you're saving money. Well, the money you save, you can allocate to maybe some renovation in your home, and that's going to increase the value of this home. That is operational excellence. In the context of a business, that can be digitization, that can be automation, that can be lean processes, better procurement. So there's a lot of ways to unlock value without compromising your growth. Again, you're not cutting your way to greatness. And I'm sure many of you are well aware of artificial intelligence. It's very difficult to open a magazine or a newspaper without hearing about artificial intelligence these days. But I see in most organizations, big and small, these tools are not implemented at all. And there are a lot of opportunities to do that. Maybe you're going to see a couple of chatbots here and there and a process automation, but compared to how it could be implemented, we're just scratching the surface. So there's a lot of opportunities that are really untapped in the context of artificial intelligence. And sometimes the value is just hiding in plain sight. It can be excess inventory. It can be workflows, processes that are bloated, that, papers were moving in 25 directions. It can be systems that are underutilized. So many opportunities to, again, create value without cutting necessarily costs drastically. The third and last pillar I want to talk about is culture, cultural alignment. And I know that culture is often treated as soft, but it is not true. Culture is a hard driver of performance. Incentives, accountability, ownership behavior, all of that can really make or break your strategy. You can ask your people, do they understand the priorities of your organization? Are they rewarded for driving outcomes? This is not necessarily the case. So a culture of continuous improvement compounds over time. It's like interest, it really compounds. And that's where business resilience is going to be built. So I want to say a few words on the private equity discipline. And again, you might not all be familiar with the world of private equity, but you might be familiar with their tools and their best practices. So you can think about 100-day plans, KPI dashboards, pricing strategies. All of that is coming from the world of private equity. And what if you were to bring that level of discipline into your business, into your client business? Without the buyout, you don't need to be taking investments or selling your company to a private equity shop, but you can bring that level of discipline. And again, the goal is not to run like a PE firm. It is to learn from their tools and apply them proactively in your own context. Again, I want to come back to the challenging economic situation we're going to face and that we started facing. You want to be on your front foot. You want to help your clients already look for additional ways to increase the value of their business. Because if you're not doing that now, things might turn sour pretty fast. So I want to leave you with a couple of things. So first, value creation, it's not magic. It's a mindset. We spoke about mindset just before with Ryan. And it's really a mindset that is backed by a method. And it's about doing more with what you already have. You want to do it better. You want to do it faster. You want to do it more strategically. And I really want to leave you with one question. What value is your business leaving on the table right now? Or what value is your client's business leaving on the table right now? Because that is where the opportunity lies. So thank you so much for being with me today. It was very fun to prepare this presentation and talk to you about something I'm passionate about, value creation. I'm not talking enough about that. And if you're interested in diving deeper, of course, you have Sherry's contact information. I'm happy to talk about speaking engagement, advisory work, board roles, or just have a chat. So thank you so much. And thank you again for your attention. Bye.